All right, folks, here we are. We're going to part two of your first topic in India, India's first civilizations, part two. All right, here's a map again. Here's where India is. We'll be talking about a group of people that live right around here. They'll be called Indo-Europeans, or they're also called Aryans, and they're going to move into Europe. And then they're going to slide down here in India and different places. But the Indo-Europeans are going to be very important today. All right, we'll be talking about that in a second. But let's get into this right now. So who were the Aryans? Yes. The Aryans lived in Central Asia where they raised and herded animals. They were a part of a larger group called, I just said it, not Europeans, but Indo-Europeans. Some migrated south to India and Iran. Others went west to the continent of Europe. All right, cattle were a prized possession because they provided meat, what else? Milk, and lastly, some good old butter. Cattle were so important that the Aryans even used them as money. Yeah, money, money, money. That's what they used it for sometimes. Individual wealth was measured by the number of cattle a person owned, kind of like if you have a bunch of cars today. They were expert horse riders, okay, and hunters. All right, they had metal-tipped spears and wooden chariots, which they sometimes used to invade villages for, what would they go searching for? Because they're not farmers. They're food. After the year is 2000 BCE, that's 2,000 years before Jesus was born, the Aryans began leaving their home territory. They moved in waves. That means some would come at a time, and then some more would come at a time. And some groups crossed through the mountain passes on the Himalaya. All right, so they went through the Himalaya mountains, the Hindu Kush mountains also. There, they entered the Indus River Valley around 1500 BCE. And then around 1000 BCE, their civilization spread to all of India except for the southern tip of India. So the Aryans are all over the place. Let me show you a couple of maps about that. All right, check it out. So this is where they are. They were right over here, and some of them went west into Europe. All right, and then others will come through these mountains right here, these Aryans, and go into India and change India drastically in a huge way. There's another map of it. Okay, there's a little bit that shows you go where they went. Let's see, all the way into India. Here's Iran, all the way into Europe. All right, let's get into this and see what the Aryans do to India. So what changes do the Aryans bring? All right, when the Aryans arrived in India, they no longer lived since they moved around to find food, they're called nomads. They became farmers but continued to raise cattle. Eventually, the Aryans would declare that their cattle was sacred and forbidden to be used for foods. They changed big time about how they treat cattle. They invented an iron plow to help clear India's many jungles, all right, and built canals to irrigate the land. They slowly turned the Ganges River Valley into good farmland. India's very varied climate supported all types of crops, and that's why if you go to India, there's all types of food. And some good food too. The Aryans also brought a new religion. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, as nomads, they had no written language. But in India, that developed writing language called Sanskrit. Okay, they'll come up with there's a language in India called Sanskrit there. Now, the Aryan songs, stories, poems, and prayers that Aryans had known for many centuries could be written down and recorded. We can have some today. The Aryans were organized into tribes. Each tribe was led by a Raj, sometimes Raja, but we say Raj or prince. The Rajas ran their own small kingdom, which often fought among themselves. Rajas fought over cattle and treasure and over, yes, you're right, the ladies. They fought over the ladies. All right, kidnapped from one another. Now, that didn't really tell us many of the changes that took place, but this is the one that matters the most, probably the most important thing you learn in all of India. What is the caste system? All right, one of the results of the Aryan arrival in India was the development of the caste system. This, in my opinion, is the most racist system that's ever existed on the face of the earth. Pay attention, it's real important. It still exists today, illegally, but it's still there. A caste is a social group that someone is born into and cannot change. A caste dictates what job you will have, whom you can marry, and with whom you can socialize. That means hang out with. In India, the word for caste is jati. Not jato, but jati. Thousands of jati exist in India. No one is for sure why the caste system was developed, but Aryans, we think, might have created a caste system because the people they encountered in India outnumbered them. The caste system set rules for everyone's behavior. Okay? And we'll talk more about that in a minute. All right, so it created a bunch of different social classes. It was what it does. So what's the impact of these different social classes? There's thousands of different jati, or castes, in the Indian society were grouped together into 4 classes called varnas. Okay? The top 2 varnas were the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas. The Brahmins are spelled with an I right here. Okay? Brahmins were the priests. The Kshatriyas were the warriors, the warriors who ran the government and army. On the next level down were next level down we have starts with a V, Vaishyas, or the commoners. And the Vaishyas were usually farmers and merchants. Below the Vaishyas came at the very bottom, the Sudras. Sudras were manual laborers, right, and servants, and had no rights. Most Indians belonged to the Sudra caste. All right, they're the peasants. There was one group that did not belong to any varna, and they're below even the Sudras. Its members were called the Parias, or they are also called, and they're the most interesting of these all, the untouchables. Think about that name. You're being called untouchable. All right, they performed work other Indians thought was too dirty, such as collecting trash, skinning animals, or handling dead bodies. All right, life for untouchables was extremely hard. And we're going to spend some time looking at this. You're going to have a good time learning about the untouchables. Most Indians believed that being near an untouchable was harmful, so they forced them to live apart from others. When untouchables traveled, they had to check this out, they had to take 2 sticks and tap them together so that everyone would hear them coming and they would have time to run away or move away. That's right. So we're going to be looking at that. It's going to be really, really something eye-opening for you. All right, what is the role of men and women in India? In India, parents, check this out, they would arrange marriages for their children. You didn't get to pick your husband or wife. Even today, parents arrange the majority of in India. Boys and girls were often married in check this out, how old they are. Like you, getting married right now. Some were as young as 13. Divorce was almost never allowed. But if a couple could not have children, the husband could marry a second wife. One custom shows how what we're looking at here. One custom shows how the lives of Indian men were considered more important than the lives of Indian women. Check this out. This will blow your mind. You won't believe me, but watch this. In India, people were cremated, after they were died, or they were burned when they died. When a man from a prominent family died, his wife was expected to jump into the flames. This practice was called sati. All right. If the wife resisted and did not kill herself, it was a great shame. Everyone would, what would they do? They would avoid her for the rest of her life from then on. Let me move real quick. I'm going to show you just a few pictures here. Okay. Here's your Sanskrit. There's the untouchables at the bottom. Okay. And I'll show you some pictures of the untouchables. It's crazy. I'm just look at all this. The Untouchables. It's